Today we're talking about 3 flowers that are simply made for planting in July. These aren't just any flowers. These are plants that reach their full potential precisely when planted during the summer months. Many gardeners believe that by July, the planting season is already over. That's a mistake. In reality, July is the second wind of the season. At this time, the soil is at maximum warmth, the daylight hours are still long, but the sun is no longer as aggressive as it was in June. If you plant certain flowers in July, they will bloom during the most beautiful time of the year, in August, September, and October, when the heat subsides, when the air turns golden. During this video, 3 flowers will be discussed that transform a garden when planted in July. For each one, we'll explain where to plant it, how to choose seedlings or seeds, how to care for it to achieve maximum blooms. Let's begin. First flower, Celosia. Celosia is a plant that many people have seen, but not everyone knows its name. Celosia belongs to the amaranth family and originates from tropical regions of Africa and Asia. It's an annual plant that grows in open, sunny places in nature, so it absolutely loves warmth and light. What makes Celosia so special? Its flowers are completely unique. Depending on the variety, they look like velvety combs, like little caps, like candles. Celosia flowers don't have the standard form of petals. Instead, numerous small flowers are gathered in a dense inflorescence that looks absolutely fantastic. The Celosia color palette includes red, orange, yellow, pink, purple, and white shades. Celosia grows from 30 centimeters to 1 meter tall, depending on the variety. There are compact varieties for the front of the flower bed, and there are tall varieties that can be used as background plants or even for cutting. Why is Celosia perfect for July planting? In July, Celosia is at the peak of its development. If you plant Celosia seedlings in July, it encounters ideal conditions. Warm soil, sufficient daylight hours, but not the scorching heat of mid-June. The plant immediately begins to grow, branch out, and set buds. The result of planting Celosia in July is abundant blooming from late August until the first frost. Celosia blooms for a long time, approximately 8 to 10 weeks continuously. Moreover, the longer it blooms, the larger its inflorescences become. By September and October, Celosia reaches the peak of its beauty. How to choose Celosia seedlings. When choosing Celosia seedlings, you need to pay attention to several points. First, the leaves should be green and firm. If the leaves are wilted or yellow, this is a sign that the plant lacked light or water during cultivation. Second, the height of the seedling. The optimal height for Celosia in July is 10 to 15 centimeters. Such a plant is well developed but hasn't yet outgrown its pot. Third, the stem. It should be thick and slightly purple in color. If the stem is thin and pale, the seedling lacked sufficient light. Where and how to plant Celosia. Celosia requires an open, sunny location. A minimum of 8 hours of direct sun daily. Without this, blooming will be sparse. The soil for Celosia should be fertile and loose. Celosia cannot tolerate waterlogging, so drainage is mandatory. If the soil is clayey, you need to add sand, peat, or compost to make it more loose and air permeable. Celosia is planted the same way as other annuals. The plant is taken out of its pot, the roots are gently loosened, a hole of the necessary size is dug. Celosia is planted at the same depth as it grew in the pot. The distance between plants is 30 to 40 centimeters for tall varieties and 20 to 25 centimeters for compact ones. After planting, the plant is watered abundantly. The soil should be thoroughly moistened but shouldn't become waterlogged. Care for Celosia after planting. Watering is a very important aspect. Celosia prefers soil that is slightly moist but not wet. On hot days in July and August, watering may be needed once or twice daily. Water at the root, avoiding water contact with leaves and flowers. Feeding. Celosia is not very demanding regarding nutrition, but for abundant blooming it needs to be fed. Every 2 weeks, apply a complete fertilizer for flowering plants. Potassium is especially important, it stimulates blooming. Mulching. After planting, it's useful to mulch the soil around the plant with a layer of organic mulch 3 to 5 centimeters thick. This helps retain moisture and maintains a comfortable temperature for the roots. Removal of faded inflorescences. Celosia is a plant that responds gratefully to the removal of faded flowers. When an inflorescence begins to lose its beauty, remove it. This stimulates the formation of new inflorescences. Blooming becomes more abundant and prolonged. Diseases and pests. Celosia rarely gets sick under normal growing conditions. The main problem is excess moisture, which can lead to root rot. Pests also rarely attack celosia. Sometimes spider mites may appear in very dry weather, but this isn't critical. Using celosia in the garden. Celosia is versatile in its use. Tall varieties look excellent in the center of a flower bed or in the background. Compact varieties are ideal for the foreground and for containers. Celosia combines well with other summer annuals, with silvery plants, with white and blue flowers. Celosia can also be cut for bouquets. Cut celosia inflorescences last a long time in water, and if dried, they become excellent material for dried bouquets. Second flower, Gaillardia. Gaillardia is a flower that beginning gardeners often underestimate, but experienced landscape designers know. Gaillardia is the workhorse of the flowerbed. Reliable, beautiful, unpretentious. Gaillardia belongs to the aster family and originates from America. In nature, this plant grows in open prairies, so it's used to heat, wind, drought, and not very fertile soil. This makes Gaillardia an ideal choice for gardens where you don't want to constantly fuss with watering and feeding. Gaillardia is a plant with a very bright and memorable color. Its flowers resemble little suns with red, orange, yellow, and brown petals. Usually, the flower is colored in 2 or 3 colors simultaneously. For example, yellow petals with a red tip, or red petals with a yellow center. This gives Gaillardia a very festive, almost celebratory appearance. Gaillardia comes in both annual and perennial forms. For July planting, annual Gaillardia is best suited because perennial varieties require winter dormancy. Annual Gaillardia grows approximately 30 to 50 centimeters tall and has a spreading bush form. Why is Gaillardia indispensable for July planting? Gaillardia is a plant that seems to be made for planting in July. First, it prefers warm conditions. In July, when the soil is well warmed, Gaillardia grows at maximum speed. Second, Gaillardia begins blooming relatively late. If you plant it as a seedling in July, the first flowers will appear in late August. But then it will bloom until the very first frosts. And the closer it gets to autumn, the brighter its colors become. Third, Gaillardia is completely unpretentious. It doesn't need frequent watering, doesn't need frequent feeding. It grows on its own, covering itself with more and more flowers. Choosing Gaillardia seedlings. When choosing Gaillardia seedlings, you need to look at the overall condition of the plant. Leaves should be green and healthy. Gaillardia seedlings in July are usually not very large, about 10 to 12 centimeters tall, and this is normal. Gaillardia grows quickly even from small seedlings. Where to plant Gaillardia? Gaillardia is a plant for sunny locations. It needs a minimum of 6 hours of direct sun daily, but 8 or more is better. In the sun, Gaillardia grows compactly and blooms abundantly. In the shade, it will grow but will produce significantly fewer flowers. Gaillardia is unpretentious about soil. It grows in any soil, even poor soil. The only requirement is good drainage. If the soil becomes waterlogged, the plant may rot. Planting Gaillardia. Gaillardia should be planted at a distance of 20 to 30 centimeters apart. The planting process is standard. Remove the plant from its pot, loosen the roots, dig a hole, plant at the same depth, water. After planting, it's useful to mulch the soil. Mulch helps retain moisture and suppresses weed growth. Care for Gaillardia. Watering. Gaillardia is drought-resistant and doesn't require frequent watering. After planting in July, watering should be regular until the plant becomes established. This will take approximately 2 weeks. After that, Gaillardia can be watered less frequently, only during very dry periods. Feeding. Gaillardia grows well even without feeding. But if you want more abundant blooming, you can feed it once or twice a month with liquid flower fertilizer. Removal of faded flowers. Gaillardia responds gratefully to the removal of faded flowers. If you regularly remove withered flowers, the plant will bloom much more abundantly. If you leave faded flowers, The plant will spend energy on seed production and there will be fewer flowers. Stems and leaves. Gaillardia usually doesn't require pinching. It naturally grows in a bushy and dense form. The only thing that might be needed is the removal of lower leaves if they've yellowed or been damaged. Using in the garden. Gaillardia looks excellent in group plantings. If you plant several plants together, you'll get a beautiful yellow-red cloud. Gaillardia combines well with other summer annuals, with ornamental grasses, with white flowers, with purple flowers. Gaillardia is also good for cutting. Flowers last quite a long time in a vase. Third flower, cosmos. Cosmos is a flower that embodies summer. Its delicate, thin stems, feathery foliage, light flowers on thin stems that sway in the breeze. All of this creates a sense of lightness and celebration. Cosmos belongs to the aster family and originates from Mexico. It came to Europe in the 17th century and has been a gardener's favorite ever since. And for good reason. This is a beautiful, unpretentious plant that delights with its long blooming period. Cosmos flowers resemble daisies or chamomiles. They can be simple with a single row of petals or double, more lush. Cosmos colors include pink, red, white, and yellow. There are also bicolored varieties. Cosmos grows tall and thin, usually from 60 to 120 centimeters tall depending on the variety and growing conditions. This creates a delicate, airy effect in the garden. Why is Cosmos perfect for July planting? Cosmos is a plant that begins blooming quite late. If you plant Cosmos seedlings in July, it will bloom from late August through October. This is the most beautiful time for Cosmos, when the heat subsides and the flowers look especially delicate and fragile. Second, Cosmos grows very quickly. Seedlings planted in July with a height of 12 to 15 centimeters will reach their full height by late August. Third, Cosmos is very resistant to diseases and pests. It's almost never bothered by pests, and it gets sick rarely. Choosing Cosmos seedlings. When choosing Cosmos seedlings, you need to look at the overall condition. Leaves should be green without yellow spots. Cosmos seedlings in July are usually small, and this is normal. Cosmos grows very quickly even from small seedlings. You can also plant Cosmos seeds directly in the ground in July. Cosmos seeds are large and easy to plant. They will sprout within 5 to 10 days. Where to plant Cosmos? Cosmos prefers sunny locations. It needs a minimum of 6 hours of sun daily. In the sun, Cosmos will grow more compact and bloom more abundantly. Cosmos is unpretentious about soil. It grows in any soil, even poor soil. An excess of fertility can cause Cosmos to grow more foliage while producing fewer flowers. Planting Cosmos. If seedlings are being planted, the distance between plants should be 20 to 30 centimeters. The planting process is standard. If Cosmos is planted from seed, the seeds are simply scattered over the surface of prepared soil, lightly pressed into the ground, and watered. Seeds will sprout within a week. Care for Cosmos. Watering. Cosmos is drought-resistant. After becoming established, which takes 2 to 3 weeks, it barely needs watering. Even in dry weather, Cosmos survives. However, if there's an anomalous heat wave, watering won't hurt. Feeding. Cosmos doesn't need feeding. On fertile soil, it grows mainly in foliage. If the soil is very poor, you can give one feeding with complete fertilizer, but no more than that. Pinching. If you want Cosmos to be more bushy and branching, you can pinch off its top at a height of 20 to 30 centimeters. This will stimulate the growth of lateral shoots. Removal of faded flowers. Like most summer annuals, Cosmos blooms longer and more abundantly if you remove faded flowers. But Cosmos can get by without this, especially if there's a lot of it in the garden. Problems. Cosmos rarely gets sick. The only problem can occur in very damp weather when gray mold might appear. But this is rare. Pests practically don't bother Cosmos. Using in the garden. Cosmos is ideal for creating an airy background. Its tall, thin stems with feathery foliage and graceful flowers create a very beautiful, natural effect. Cosmos combines well with other summer annuals, with bright, low-growing plants that peek out from beneath its foliage. Cosmos is also excellent for cutting. A bouquet of Cosmos looks very light and elegant. In water, Cosmos lasts a long time, about 2 weeks. Conclusion. 3 flowers, Celosia, Gaillardia, and Cosmos, are not just beautiful plants. These are plants that possess special potential when planted in July. Each one fully reveals itself in the late summer and fall, when most other summer annuals are already tired from the heat. Celosia attracts with its unique flower form, bright colors, and long blooming period. Gaillardia amazes with its reliability and unpretentiousness, giving the garden joyful yellow-red accents. Cosmos creates an atmosphere of lightness and tenderness with its feathery foliage and delicate flowers. The main beauty of July planting is that these 3 plants begin their blooming precisely when the garden loses its brightness. July and August can be boring months in the garden, especially if only spring plants were planted. But if these 3 flowers are added in July, the garden gets a second wind. August, September, and October become months of intense blooming. Care for these plants is minimal. They don't require special skills or large time investments. It's enough to plant them correctly, water them regularly for the first 2 weeks, and then simply enjoy the blooms. Planting these 3 flowers in July is an investment in the garden's beauty for the entire remaining season. It's an opportunity to get maximum blooms for minimum effort. It's a way to make the end of summer and autumn the most beautiful seasons in the garden.